The sharp snip of the shears echoed in the cavernous silence of the penthouse. April Potts trimmed the last white rose, placing it carefully into the crystal vase. The flowers were perfect, cold, and utterly devoid of fragrance, just like the life she had lived here for 1,095 days. The electronic chime of the lock sliced through the quiet. Her fingers tightened on the stem, a thorn pricking her skin. She didn't flinch. He was home. Ellegaard Madden swept in, bringing a gust of the city's chill with him. He didn't look at her. He never did. He walked straight to the bar, his movements precise and economical, and poured himself a measure of whiskey. The Patek Philippe on his wrist caught the light, a cold, expensive gleam. He turned, his deep blue eyes finally landing on her, but they held no warmth. They were the eyes of a stranger. He tossed a manila envelope onto the marble coffee table. It landed with a soft, definitive thud. Kinley's back. The words were quiet, but they felt like a physical blow. A sudden, sharp cramp seized her stomach, making it hard to breathe. She had been expecting this day, rehearsing it in her mind for 3 years, but the reality was a suffocating weight. She kept her face a blank mask. Her gaze dropped to the envelope. The bold, black letters on the cover seemed to burn into her retinas. Divorce agreement. Ellegaard took a sip of his whiskey, his expression unreadable. Sign it. He expected tears. He expected questions, pleading, a scene. She would give him none of it. April walked toward the table, her steps even and measured. She picked up the agreement, her hands surprisingly steady. She didn't bother reading the legalese. Her eyes went straight to the last page, the signature line waiting for her like an open grave. A flicker of something annoyance, surprise, crossed Ellegaard's face. Her placid acceptance was not part of his script. She saw the settlement clause, a villa in the Hamptons, $10 million, a tidy sum for 3 years of playing a part. She picked up the pen from the table, eye in front of his watchful eyes. She drew a thick, deliberate line through the entire section detailing her compensation. The ink bled into the paper, a final, brutal amputation. Beside the crossed-out paragraphs, she wrote a single, clear sentence. I waive all claims. Then, she signed her name, April Potts, the calluses on her fingertips, a secret legacy from years spent with a cello pressed against her, brushed against the smooth paper. It was a faint, grounding friction, a reminder of who she was before she became Mrs. Madden. She slid the signed agreement back across the table toward him. It's done. Her phone buzzed on the counter, a stark, unwelcome intrusion, a calendar reminder, Ian's tuition payment due, her brother, the reason for all of this. She silenced it with a quick jab of her thumb. Ellegaard's gaze sharpened, becoming more complex, more searching. He picked up the document, his eyes scanning her signature, then the sentence she had added. Are you sure? He asked, his voice a low rumble. I've been well compensated for my role as Mrs. Madden for the past 3 years, April said, her voice as smooth and cold as the marble beneath her feet. Freedom is the best severance package. A muscle jumped in Ellegaard's jaw. He was a man accustomed to control, to every piece on his board moving exactly as he willed. She had just flipped the table. Fine, he clipped out, his voice tight with suppressed anger. He folded the document and tucked it into his jacket. You have 24 hours to be out. He turned and walked to the door without a backward glance. No goodbye. No final words. The lock clicked shut, a sound of absolute finality. April stood frozen, her body rigid, until her legs began to tremble from the strain. She walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows and looked out at the glittering expanse of New York City. A city that sparkled with a million promises, none of them for her. She took a deep, shuddering breath, the first one that felt truly her own in years. She pulled out her phone and found a number she rarely used. Briley Coffee, Ellegaard's doting sister. She typed a short message. Congratulations, dear brother. He's a free man. Sent. She immediately blocked the number. Her eyes scanned the opulent cage one last time. There was no sadness, no regret, only the exhilarating, terrifying feeling of release. April turned and walked into the massive walk-in closet, her steps purposeful. She ignored the racks of designer clothes and rows of expensive shoes. She pulled out a single, worn suitcase from the very back. It was time to pack up April Potts and leave Mrs. Madden behind for good. The walk-in closet was a temple of couture, a silent testament to Ellegaard Madden's wealth. Racks of Chanel, Dior, and Valentino stood like a silent, judgmental audience. April ignored them all. She pulled out the battered suitcase she'd arrived with 3 years ago and opened it on the plush carpet. It was mostly empty. She looked at the dresses, the handbags, the shoes. They were a uniform, the costume for the role of Mrs. Madden. They were not hers. She stripped off the silk dress she was wearing, letting it pool at her feet like a shed skin. She pulled on a faded t-shirt and a pair of comfortable, worn-in jeans from her suitcase. The soft cotton against her skin felt more luxurious than any designer fabric. Passing the vanity, she caught her reflection. A pale woman with haunted eyes and long, docile brown hair stared back. That was his wife. That wasn't her. A sudden, fierce impulse seized her. She walked into the adjoining marble bathroom, her steps echoing. She opened a drawer, rummaged past expensive creams and serums, and found what she was looking for, a small pair of silver scissors. Without a second of hesitation, she gathered her waist-length hair in one hand and cut. The thick strands fell to the floor in a soft, sad heap. She kept cutting, raggedly at first, then with more precision, until a chic, shoulder-length bob framed her face. IT was messy. IT was uneven. It was hers, but it wasn't enough. She found a box of drugstore hair dye she'd bought months ago on a whim and hidden away, ash blonde. She worked the chemical-smelling mixture through her newly shorn locks, a stinging, transformative ritual. An hour later, a new woman looked back from the mirror. The hair was a defiant, cool blonde. Her eyes, no longer shadowed by the weight of her past, seemed to spark with a new light. This was a start. She dragged her single suitcase out of the apartment, the wheels rumbling a lonely protest against the polished floors. She didn't look back. She checked into a generic, anonymous hotel in Midtown, paying with a debit card linked to a personal account she'd painstakingly maintained with the small allowance Elegant had provided. It wasn't much, but it was hers. Flipping open her laptop, she navigated to a job search website. She needed to be independent. Fast. Her phone vibrated violently on the nightstand. She glanced at the screen. A barrage of messages from an unknown number. She opened them, and her stomach dropped. It was Briley Coffee, using a different number. The messages were a torrent of gloating and cruelty. April, why did you block me? What the hell is going on? Elegant is with Kinley now. He flew to Switzerland to get her. You should see them. He's so happy. The last message came with a picture, the interior of a private jet. Elegant was leaning over a frail-looking Kinley Mullen, his expression one of tender concern as he draped a cashmere blanket over her. His profile was as sharp and handsome as ever, but all April saw was the cold indifference he had shown her for 3 years, now repurposed as gentle care for another woman. A sharp, familiar pain lanced through her chest, a phantom limb of a love that had never truly existed. She squeezed her eyes shut, forcing the image away. She typed a quick reply to the unknown number. Wish them well. Then she blocked this new number as well, this time for good. She shut off her phone. The silence in a room a welcome balm. Focus. She had to focus. She remembered her father's sudden death, the mountain of medical debt, and her brother Ian's university acceptance letter arriving in the same week. Elegant's proposal had been a lifeline, a deal with the devil to save her family. The price had been 3 years of her life, her body, her name. Now, the debt was paid. It was time to reclaim her future. Her eyes scanned the job listings. An emergency opening at Vanguard Enterprises caught her eye. Immediate start. The position was for an executive assistant. The salary was decent. And Vanguard was the primary competitor, the sworn enemy of Madden's flagship company, Apex Dynamics. A slow, dangerous smile spread across April's face. She clicked the link. She tailored her resume, highlighting her administrative skills and her experience managing a complex household A sanitized version of her life as Mrs. Madden. She deliberately omitted her degree in fine arts and her true passion. She hit submit. Exhaustion washed over her, a deep, bone-weary fatigue. She fell back onto the hotel bed, the unfamiliar mattress a strange comfort. Sleep wouldn't come. She picked up her phone again, but this time she opened a different app, an encrypted social media account. The profile ID was simple, Visage. The account had 3.7 million followers. She scrolled through the feed, a gallery of her work, unbelievable transformations. She could turn a model into a mythical creature, an old man, an alien queen, using only makeup and prosthetics. It was her art, her secret, the one part of herself she had kept hidden from Elegant's world. The comments were a flood of praise and eager anticipation. Visage, when's the next tutorial? You're a genius. Please show us your face one day. A small, genuine smile touched her lips for the first time that day. This was her. This was real. She closed the app and shut her eyes. Tomorrow, she had an interview. Tomorrow, April Potts would begin again. The next morning, the shrill ring of the hotel phone jolted April from a restless sleep. She answered, her voice thick with sleep. Mrs. Madden, a crisp, professional voice inquired. IT was Sheldon Hayes, Elegant's ever-present, ever-efficient assistant. Mr. Madden's lawyer has scheduled the final divorce proceedings for 10 o'clock this morning at the City Hall courthouse. A car will be sent for you. Don't bother, April said, her voice clearing. I'll get there myself. She hung up before he could reply. She wanted to sever every last tie, down to the chauffeured cars. She showered and dressed carefully in the sharp, navy blue pantsuit she had bought for interviews. It was her armor for the day. A taxi dropped her in front of the grand, imposing courthouse. As she paid the driver, a sleek, black Bentley purred to a stop at the curb. Elegant stepped out. He saw her immediately. His eyes, the color of a stormy sea, swept over her. They took in the short, defiant blonde hair, the professional suit, the determined set of her jaw. He had expected a ghost of the woman he'd left behind pale, tear-streaked, broken. This was not that woman. A muscle in his jaw twitched. This was not in the script. This was a loss of control, and Elegant Madden hated losing control. He turned without a word and strode up the courthouse steps. April followed, maintaining a careful 3-foot distance. They were two strangers, walking in parallel lines that would, for a few more minutes, be legally bound. Inside, the air was stale with the scent of old paper and human desperation. They took a number and sat on a hard wooden bench, a chasm of silence between them. Elegant's phone rang. He walked a few feet away to answer it. Just rest, he said, his voice dropping to a low, gentle murmur she had never heard him use with her. I'll be done soon. Kinley, of course. April stared straight ahead, her heart a cold, still stone in her chest. The absurdity of it all was almost funny. Number G, 47. A bored voice called from a window. Their turn. They approached the counter together. The clerk, a woman with tired eyes and a name tag that read Maria, took their paperwork. She typed methodically into her computer, the clacking of the keys the only sound between them. After a few minutes, Maria looked up, an apologetic grimace on her face. "I'm sorry, Mr. Madden, Miss Potts," she said, her voice weary. "Our system is down for emergency maintenance. I can't process any divorce filings today." Elagaz's carefully constructed composure cracked. "Emergency maintenance?" he demanded, his voice dangerously low. "When will it be back up?" Maria shrugged, a gesture of bureaucratic helplessness. "Could be a day or two. Could be a week. We got a memo from upstairs. That's all I know." April saw Elagaz's hand clench into a fist at his side. A plan derailed. A loose end left untied. She felt a wave of dizzying frustration. Freedom, so close, was now trapped behind a server error. Elagaz turned to her, his CEO persona taking over. "Give me your address. I'll have the paper sent to you when it's done." It was a command, not a request. April looked him straight in the eye, her own frustration hardening into defiance. "That won't be necessary, Mr. Madden. I'll handle it myself." The formal address hung in the air between them, a newly forged wall. A flash of anger sparked in his blue eyes. "April, don't be a child." "Who's the child here?" she shot back, her voice low but sharp. "I'm not the one in a rush to get a clean slate for his precious sweetheart." Her words were a well-aimed dart, and they hit their mark. He flinched. People on the nearby benches were starting to stare, their curiosity piqued. Elagaz hated public scenes. He leaned in, lowering his voice to a hiss. "I was trying to help you." "Thank you," she said, her voice dripping with ice. "But the last thing I need right now is any more help from the Madden family." She turned on her heel and walked away, her back ramrod straight. She didn't run. She walked with the deliberate pace of someone who had made a decision and would not be looking back. Elagaz stood rooted to the spot, watching her go. The sight of her walking away, so confident, so utterly out of his reach, ignited a hot, unfamiliar feeling in his gut was more than anger. It was something akin to panic. He pulled out his phone, his thumb jabbing at the screen. He dialed Shelton Hayes. "Find out what the hell is wrong with the courthouse system. I want it fixed," he snapped. He paused, his eyes still fixed on the doorway where she had disappeared. "And one more thing. You're still following her, right? Stay on her and I want to know where she goes. Every single step.